Hello, Axilla here for Funhouse Gaming, and this is Tutorial Tuesday number 3. Sorry for last week, I did explain that I was watching Blizzcon, so I didn't get any recording done, since the weekend is when I get most of my recording done. This Tutorial Tuesday is going to be on Artosis' Blizzcon winning decks. It's going to be a deck tech on all three, so it's going to be relatively quick deck techs, as well as why he used those three, and, you know, that sort of thing. Firstly, I want to explain that the reason I'm doing this is because out of all the tournaments I've played in, and out of all the tournaments I've watched and seen, I preferred the format of BlizzCon's tournament. I preferred the 3 decks where you put deck lists in, you submit deck lists, and you play those decks. I mean, obviously at the moment there's not a massively organised tournament format for Hearthstone. I played in a Swiss tournament, I played in a single elimination, I played in best of 3 elimination, I played in a you can play any deck, best of 3 elimination. It's I've played a lot of things, but so far I love the BlizzCon format the most, and I think when tournaments start getting more, you know, organised and efficient and stuff, and deck lists can be enforced, I think the BlizzCon format will be what I would prefer to see, really. So yeah, let's get into it. Now, Artosis played 3 decks like he had to in BlizzCon, and those 3 were Paladin, Priest, and Warrior. First of all, Artosis' Paladin deck. I'm going to have to say it every time, aren't I? This was the deck that he used first in every matchup, I believe, and is his most reliable, and simply is a very good deck. I play tested this for about 30 games, maybe more, and I'm probably around 80 to 90% win rate with it. I'll get a win streak of about 7 or 8 and then I'll lose. It's very good deck, and it's very reliable, and so let's go over the deck list now. First of all, the quality works very well with Consecration and Avenging Wrath. I'm sure you can figure out why for both of them. I'm not going to explain things in depth, I'm just going to quickly go over this and then do kind of discussion on why the decks worked. Secondly, Ardent Protector is a good card, 2/2/2. Divine Shield to protect things like your Knife Juggler. Blood Cell Raider, gain attack equal to the attack of your weapon. With Sword Justice, it becomes a 4/4. With a Truce of a Champion, it becomes a 6/3. Very good. Knife Juggler, for the amount of tokens you get from Imp Master and from your hero power. Great card, high target, takes away from potentially more of your harder hitting cards like Blood Cell Raider. Sword of Justice, fantastic card, just keeps creating 2/2s with your hero power, or buffs your Knife Juggler up to a 4/3 so it doesn't die to things, to Priest really, that sort of stuff. Eldor Peacekeeper, Paladin lacks a lot of removal, Eldor Peacekeeper basically deals with that. They bring out a 7/7, Eldor Peacekeeper, it's a 1/7. Like, good luck. Imp Master works very well with Knife Juggler. If you buff it with Sword of Justice, you get a 2/6 for 3 mana. It's very good. And your Imps all get 2/2, all become 2/2s. Great card. True Silver Champion, 4/2. Like, not much else to say. It's one of the best weapons for Paladin, if not the best weapon for Paladin, since it's only got a couple weapons. A Singular Blessing of Kings. This is very odd to only have 1. You'd normally have 2. You'd focus on buffing your minions, and maybe you think about why would you have this instead of Blessing of Might. Blessing of Kings, the way Artosis played it and the way I've found it's best to play it, is simply as removal. You buff up one of your 1/1s or one of your other minions to kill a big taunt, or to deal that last bit of extra surprise damage. Don't use it, don't play it because you have it, play it because you need to, or because it's going to secure you the win, basically. Consecration, again, works very well with the quality. It's a board wipe, not really much more to say about that. Defender of Argus, give adjacent minions 1/1 and taunt. Very useful, that helps deal with very aggressive decks, as well as buffing more minions, so you can make your Imp Master even stronger, or you can buff the Imp Master tokens and maybe your 1/1 tokens from your hero power in order to protect things like your Imp Master. Spellbreaker, for the silence effect really. Also use this over an Iron Cal, because it's an Iron Cal is 2 mana for a 2/1. This is 4 mana for 4/3, so it's already slightly better stats. They're both silence and minion, but the Spellbreaker is just overall better for this deck, since it's more mid-range, it's more aggressive, in my opinion, since it is a 4/3. It doesn't die to a lot of priest things, it doesn't die to a lot of board wipes. Very, very good card. 2 Avenging Wraths works well with equality, like I said. Also very useful for as almost as another board clear like Consecration. Can also deal surprise 8 damage just for 6 mana. Very good. Argent Commander. This is in every single one of Artosis' decks and is the best 6-drop in the game at the moment. That's not just my opinion, it just is. Really, at the moment, it's the best 6-drop. You'll see it in basically every deck, unless it has no direct synergies with the deck. For example, my Combo Hunter deck, I don't play this. My Warlock Death Rattle, I used to play this, but I found cards that synergize a little bit better with my deck for it. However, my Priest deck, my Paladin deck, my Warrior deck, my Mage deck, all play Argent Commander. 2 Lay on Hands. This was unusual for me to see, since I'll only ever play 1 Lay on Hands, and after playtesting it a lot, I do prefer 1 Lay on Hands and either a Captain Greenskin or a Divine Favour. However, Artosis played 2 of them, and he never really used the heal to not die to secure a win, but the drawing 3 cards was always useful. So that's why you have it. It sits in your hand until you need to use it. And last but not least, Tyrion Fordring. Now this was weird to see competitively, since there's so many ways to deal with him. However, I love this card. I want him to be played as much as possible. He's a very, very good card. Divine Shield Taunt deals with a lot of aggro. Even if he gets killed, you get a 5/3 weapon. Very, very good. Not much more to say about him, other than don't play him against priests. He gets mind controlled, you really just about lose. He is difficult to deal with. Paladin doesn't have that much removal as it stands. If you give your opponent a 6/6 Divine Shield Taunt, you're not going to have a good day. So yeah, that's his Paladin deck. And moving on. Onto Artosis' Warrior deck. This is similar to his Paladin deck. It's very mid-rangey, very aggressive, but it's more aggressive. Because it's more aggressive, it can't deal with as many things, so it's slightly less reliable, but it was used similarly to his Paladin deck as a reliable way of dealing a lot of aggression and winning in the mid-game. It's an enrage deck, so it's got lots of things that do enrage. It doesn't really have that many enrage minions, but it has things that effectively give enrage, like Inner Rage, as well as Cruel Taskmaster. So let's go over the deck list. Double Inner Rage, very, very good for buffing up your minion, or maybe even pinging off your opponent's minions. Similarly, Execute, destroy an enemy damaged enemy minion. Good, you can combo that with Inner Rage, that's okay. Upgrade, you don't really ever want to use this for the 1/3, since the 1/3 is the worst weapon in the game. However, if you're able to buff, for example, your Fiery War Axe, great. Lepidome, very aggressive card, 1 mana for a 2/1, that's already quite aggressive, but when it dies you deal damage. Good. It won him Blizzcon against Kriparian, who had a Blizzard in hand. He played a Lepidome, and he was going to die unless he stopped the attack. He was on 2 health, brought out Lepidome, and then even if he Blizzard, he died. And funnily enough, at Blizzard's Hearthstone Innkeeper's Invitational, the last spell that was played was Blizzard, because he killed the Lepidome, killing himself effectively. Very aggressive card, very good. Fiery War Axe, because weapons, it's a very good weapon. Slam, deal 2 damage to a minion if it survives, draw a card, can be used with Omani Berserker to trigger its enraged, also for card draw, also you can use it to obviously take out your opponent's minions. Love this card. Omani Berserker, Enrage, it's 2 mana for a 2/3. Using this over Tauren Warrior is, I just prefer this card over Tauren Warrior entirely. Tauren Warrior, if you don't know, is a 2/3 Enrage +3, but it has Taunt, however it's 3 mana. That 1 extra mana means it's not aggressive enough for this deck. Bloodcell Raider, can attack equal to the attack of your weapon. Fire War Axe makes it a 5/3, loads of other weapons, buff it, it's a good card for this deck. Cruel Taskmaster is effectively the same effect as in a Rage, and will trigger things like Omani Berserker's Enrage. It's very good. Frothing Berserker, one of the better warrior cards. It doesn't die to things like Frostbolt. It's only 3 mana, and it gets fat. It gets big really quickly. You'd be surprised. This thing is a massive target, takes away from some of your other creatures, massive target to try and kill. Very, very good card. Works well in this because obviously you're enraging, you're trying to deal some damage to your own creatures. Warsong Commander, probably the best warrior card in the game. Other minions have charge. Underestimated this thing, it is so good. A Wrathy Weaponsmith, 3/3, but you get a 2/2 weapon, that's great. Arcanite Reaper, it's a very, very strong weapon. Having 2 of them I wasn't too sure of, but having played with this, I've played with this deck for about 20 games or so, not as much as the Paladin deck. The Arcanite Reaper has been very good, especially since Warrior doesn't worry about losing health so much, because 1, it can armor up, and 2, this is an aggressive deck, so if your opponent can kill you faster, you know, you're gonna have you're having a bad day, because this is aggressive. This kills your opponents very quickly. Captain Greenskin, for obvious reasons, buffs up all of your weapons. Argent Commander, a singular of, because it's the best 6-drop in the game. Gorehowl, because Gorehowl, it's there's no other real reason. It works so well. Buff it up with Captain Greenskin, and it does a lot. It's just a fantastic card. Really good. Gramash Hellscream, as the final piece of the puzzle. Charge and Rage. He won his game against Trump with this. He 2-0'd Trump, and then Trump beat his Paladin deck, taking it to 2-1. And then Artosis played his Warrior deck, and had an Inner Rage in hand, I believe. Played Gramash, played Inner Rage, boosted him for a lot of damage. Trump was dead. Like it's a surprise, a large amount of damage. Like if you enrage him, he does 10 straight away for 8 mana. You can actually get him to a 16, 7 for 10 mana. So you can attack somebody for 16. That's over half. So that's with obviously you enrage him to make him to a 10-8, but he's a 12-8 within a rage. Then he can be a 14-7, and then with 1 Cruel Taskmaster. Sorry, he's a 16-6. So yeah, you can buff him up to a 16-6 charge. Very, very good card. So that's his warrior deck. And last is Artosis' priest deck. This was the kind of like the pocket strat. This was a very unusual deck, and as a result dealt with things in a way that opponents weren't really expecting. He saved this deck. He didn't show anybody what this deck could do until the final game against until the final best of 5 against Kripparrian. He played this as his second deck, and he won with it purely because it's odd, and Kripparrian wasn't really sure how to play against it. He did his best, but there wasn't that much. So we'll go over the deck list now. Double Circle of Healing works great in conjunction with Injured Blade Masters and Organized Soul Priest. 2 Holy Smites, it's decent removal. 2 Power Word Shield, because that's a fantastic card. You get to draw a card, so there's no card disadvantage with that, and you buff one of your minions. 2 Light Wardens, because they get strong quickly. They're a big strong target. There's a target that your opponents want to kill. You can keep them alive with healing, and with Power Word Shield. Northshire Cleric, because drawing a card is great for card advantage. Very difficult to kill. One of the best 1-drops in the game. 2 Shadow Word Pain. Not really much to say about that. 1 Shadow Word Death, because you only really need the 1. 2 Injured Blade Master. 3 mana for a 4/3. Circle of Healing, it's a 4/7. You can coin that out on turn 2 to get a 4/7 on turn 2 with Circle of Healing. Very good card. Also, healing this, it's already done damage. It already does damage to itself, so you don't have to worry about trading it with opponent's creatures to deal damage. So it triggers your Northshire Cleric and your Light Warden already. Organized Soul Priest, that with Circle of Healing is basically a Flame Strike. Yes, it's to your own minions as well, but this survives that, and it's a cheaper Flame Strike. It's just a really, really good combo. Spellbreaker, 2 Spellbreakers, again a very aggressive card for the silence, very good. 2 Holy Novas, it's a board clear, heals and does damage. It's a great card, really. A Singular Abomination. Now I really like Abomination, especially in priest decks. It's a 4/4 taunt, which is decent, and its Death Rattle effect is amazing. Combine that with an Injured Blade Master maybe, and then you can heal up the Injured Blade Master, or with a Northshire Cleric you can heal up the Cleric and stuff like that. Draw more cards, very, very good. Holy Fire, it's a great card really. It's 5 damage, so it's strong removal. It gets rid of things like Sen'jin Shieldmaster, for example, as well as Organized Soul Priest, just coincidentally. And you restore 5 health to your hero. That's good. You don't want to use it on Organized Whole Priesthood because it will deal 5 damage to you. Argent Commander, best 6 drop in the game. Moving on. Now I'm going to ignore Prophet Velen for a bit, because normally you just search up my microphone. Sorry, dropped the microphone there. You go for a late game of double mind control, Ragnaros, Ysera. That's a very, very common priest late game, because Ragnaros does something the turn you play him. Ysera does something the turn you play her. However, it doesn't play Ysera. Instead, it plays Prophet Velen. And this, I thought, was very odd. And I didn't really see the use of Prophet Velen. However, because he's funky, because you're not expecting him, he can surprise your opponent and do a lot. I have played him in the past in quite gimmicky decks with Mind Blast, because that's a surprise 10 damage. Really nice. But overall, not too sure what he's doing in this deck, other than the fact that this is a gimmicky deck and he fills in that gimmicky role. It's meant to surprise your opponent. It's an unusual deck for a reason, and that's why he played it. I don't think this deck's that good on the ladder or competitively, but in the tournament format that Blizzard ran, it's a good deck for that, because it's not necessarily what your opponent's expecting. It's unusual. You're not too sure how to deal with it. So that's how Artosis played it, and it worked out very well for him. Now that I've very, very quickly gone over the decks, I want to explain basically how he won, really. He played his Paladin deck first every single time, as far as I'm aware, and that's because this deck is good. It's reliable. Like I said, I have about an 80 to 90% win rate with it. After playing out 30 games, it's a good deck. There's not really much more I can say about it. It's very reliable. There's not a particular style or way you should play it. It's very easy. You kind of play stuff when you can, as long as you're not stupid in how you play it. You basically play stuff when you can, and you know, it's so difficult to describe how this deck works, because nothing in it is particularly remarkable. This is the reason Artosis got so far and eventually won. It's such a good deck. There's nothing particularly remarkable or super expensive about it. I mean, the most expensive things are the Avenging Wraths and the Lay on Hands and the Sword of Justice. That's it. I mean, Tyrion Fordring, I'm not too sure how much I like him in this deck. Instead of him, I would definitely play a Captain Greenskin, but because I love to play him in this deck, I would take out Lay on Hands and play a Captain Greenskin or a Divine Favour instead, because this card's very good for card draw. But overall, this deck's just so reliable, and that's why he played it every turn, every single time first. It's reliable. It will normally win, and if it doesn't win, he then plays his slightly more gimmicky decks. When he lost to Trump, he played his Warrior deck. Now he played this because I believe Trump was playing his Priest deck, and this is a very aggressive deck. You need to have a lot of removal, you need to have a lot of control or a lot of board wipes in order to deal with that, and even then it might not be enough, because you have all of the weapons for all of the damage. You have Arathi Weaponsmith, Arcanite Reapers, you even have a Gore Howl in here, Fiery War Axe, upgrades for all of your weapons. It's very, very good. Not only do you have all of these weapons, and it's relatively weapon focused with Captain Greenskin, but you have all of these cheap, efficient minions that you can buff up. You can enrage them, you can enrage them, they get buffed up with your weapons, you give them all charge with Warsong Commander. It's a very aggressive deck, difficult to deal with, and anything the Paladin deck's more reliable because it deals with aggression and with control quite happily, quite easily, but anything that will lose to this Warrior deck should clean up, because really the Paladin deck will only lose if it's not quite aggressive enough and if he's playing against a heavy control deck, so the deck's able to stabilize against the Paladin deck. Since about turn 6 or 7 I've normally emptied my hand and I'm going for the win. If they're able to stabilize, which is basically the only times I've ever lost with the Paladin deck, is when I'm against a heavy control deck, they manage to stabilize and I don't have enough cards to keep up the aggression. This is more aggressive. It doesn't have any card draw, but because it's more, look at that mana curve, because it's more aggressive, you can kill those control decks a lot more easily. And finally, his Priest deck. This was, like I say, the kind of the pocket strategy, the hidden deck, because it's gimmicky. I mean, overall it's relatively solid, but you don't really play Circle of Healing. It's not that great a card. But combine that with Organized Soul Priest, that deals with aggression. Good. If you're playing against an aggressive deck and you can deal with the aggression, the Light Warden, you can keep healing, keep making it bigger and bigger and bigger. It's difficult to deal with. It's got lots of ways of dealing with lots and lots of things, as well as a couple gimmicky things in order to deal with stuff that your opponent wouldn't be expecting that you'd be able to deal with, really, with the Circle of Healing Organized Soul Priest as a fantastic example. With the Singular Abomination, you play that and they're like, oh, what, an abomination? Well, I can't be aggressive now. Argent Commanders, again, best 6-drop in the game, so good. And then you've got the Prophet Velen. If you already have an Organized Soul Priest out, and then you play Prophet Velen and you use your hero power, you can boosh anything for 4 with your hero power. If Prophet Velen stays alive, that's great. If Organized Soul Priest stays alive, that's fine. Even if it dies, you can heal yourself for 4. That's a lot of damage each turn that your opponent has to get through. You can keep Prophet Velen alive. You Holy Nova, 4 damage to all enemies and 4 health to all friendly characters. That's very good. Like, he's gimmicky, and I'm not too sure I like him competitively, but because this was a gimmicky deck, because this deck was designed to kind of trick your opponent in a way, it's unusual. Your opponent might not be able to know how to deal with it, and because the deck was designed to not be know how to deal with it, not be known how to you should deal with it, Prophet Velen works very well. Obviously the Mind Control Ragnaros just very reliable, very, very good. So yeah, thanks for watching. I've been Axilla for Fellow Gaming. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you have any suggestions, anything you think I missed out, anything you want me to cover for next week maybe, hit the comments section. And if you want to be notified when new videos are coming out, hit the subscribe button. Hopefully tomorrow I will be releasing a Dota 2 video, because I've not done one of them in a while. I want to get Wednesdays as a Dota 2 day. I want to try and enforce that. I'm going to try and record a lot more footage to get videos out more than once a week. So yeah, again, I've been Axilla for Gaming, and until next time.